Hello, I'm Malcolm Thomas. I'm the immediate past president.
I'm Andrew Pemberton. I am the current president.
I'm Hazel Woodcock. I'm the current president-elect.
I'm in the sort of final throes of my journey through the presidential roles, starting in, when was it, 2022 as president-elect. And so I will drop off the council and finish my presidential terms in November at ASEC.
I took over from Malcolm at ASEC in 2024. I will hand over to Hazel at ASEC later this year.
Came into position November 2024, and I step into Andrew's role at ASEC this year in 2026. I've been involved with entails and IfSE for a long time. I think I joined in 2004 thereabouts. I've been engaged with various roles in UCAB, council role a few years ago as well. I'd never before wanted the president role because I didn't know what I wanted to do with it. But at the ASEC in 2023, I was inspired to stand for it because I just felt that the time was right. I could do something with it. Everything was coming together with the transition to IfSE, and it was a really exciting time to step up. And yeah, it just seemed like the right time for me.
So I was a point of contact for the UCAB Entails at the time, and the UCAB had been asked by council to see if anybody was interested in, if there was anyone in their organisations that might be interested in putting themselves forward for the president role. And I had a conversation with a few people, two in particular within Entails, who I thought would be suitable for the role and to nominate. And both of them turned to me and said, well, why don't you do it? And I said, I hadn't really thought about it. And I got to thinking about it, and it aligned really well with where my career was going at the time. I was growing into a leadership role within Entails, and I was looking for opportunities for further leadership development. And I had the opportunity to go and do a leadership course at Entails, but I thought there isn't really much of a better leadership opportunity than running your own company for 6 years. And I felt that the 3-term role of the president, from elect through president role through to immediate past, it really gives you a well-rounded, a safe, in some ways, route to step in. You're not immediately in that position. You have the time to develop into the position. You then have your 2 years as you're in the limelight. Some of us enjoy it more than others. And then you get 2 years to close out what you've been doing and to really help those coming along behind you. And I felt that was a really good opportunity to take. And as I say, it aligned really well with where I wanted to go in my career at the time.
Yeah, you might detect a bit of a theme coming here. I first got involved with entails UK, as we were then, as the point of contact for WSP on the UCAB. And so got a little bit of exposure to how council worked in our joint meetings that we have twice a year when the UCAB joined the council. And thought, yeah, it's something I can do. I wasn't actually looking at the presidential roles to start with. I was looking at other roles on council that I thought I could do. And in those days, they were sort of 3-year terms, and I thought I could probably stand for one of those. And I was about to submit a nomination for one when I got a nomination form to sort of propose from a colleague of mine, and thought, can't stand against them. So I thought, I had another look, and I thought, well, it's a good opportunity to give something back to the Institute. I'm at that stage in my career where I retire shortly. So it wasn't about professional growth, it was more about personal growth and satisfaction in doing something for entails UK. We weren't on the journey to IfSE at the point I became president-elect, but we soon were. And that has been a really great journey and is only the start of where we're going. So anybody that joins will be able to carry on in this great journey for the Institute and take it from strength to strength. I think a lot of it is about being there to help both the president and the president-elect. You've been through the roles, you know what's involved. You can be a bit of a wise counsel to them. Whether they choose to do anything about your wise counsel is entirely up to them. But it's just, being there, passing on the knowledge, making sure that it's going in the right direction. But you also have to look at the pipeline for other council positions. So one of the key roles of the immediate past president is chair of the Nominations and Appointments Committee, which looks to build that pipeline of potential candidates and does a lot of the sort of, not scrutinisation, but chatting to those that wish to put themselves forward to make sure they get a full understanding of the role they wish to be nominated for and understand the commitments, understand the responsibilities, etc. And you get involved with all the other stuff as well. But it's primarily that guidance and wise counsel. Whether the wise is appropriate in some cases, I don't know.
So my main responsibility is making sure that council, chairing council, bringing council together and ensuring that we're aligned, setting a strategy and direction for council so that all of the council members know what their roles are and how they contribute, and holding us to account, really. And then regular 3Ps meetings with my colleagues here to effectively perform the executive function of the organisation to make sure that we're running day to day, that obviously the secretariat, Emma Jane and her team, keep us on the straight and narrow, but we're waiting 3 to 4 months for a council meeting is not frequent enough for some of the issues we need to deal with. So we have more regular meetings every couple of weeks to make sure that everything's running smoothly. And then our relationship to some of our strategic partners, in particular the Royal Academy of Engineering, Engineering UK, and the Engineering Council of the UK. There is a regular professional engineering committee meeting with the CEOs and leaders of the other PEIs, Professional Engineering Institutes, where we get together and discuss issues that are impacting all of us and how we can collaborate and work better together. And the National Engineering Policy Centre that looks at how we can provide guidance to government, education, industry as a joint voice, organised through the Royal Academy, so that we all have a voice into those further out government in particular.
So President-elect is the 2 years where you're learning and preparing to be president to some extent. So I get to be the liaison with UCAB, so I go to all of the UCAB meetings, and the voice of council at those meetings, and kind of take the responsibility for that relationship. I also get to work on the events. So particularly ASEC as our prime event of the year, with all of the planning. Anybody who's done any sort of event planning will know that there's an awful lot goes on behind the scenes that is pretty much never seen. A large amount of that is done by Dot the I and their team, but we, as a team with the technical director, we have the input on the what's going to be the topic, what's going to actually be on the programme. So selecting speakers to organising all sorts of things, regular meetings for ASEC, and that's quite a nice thing to be involved in, at least in part because you get to see more of the organisation. And the way the three roles are set up is that anything that will give you broader exposure to what is going on at council and doesn't require too much in the way of historical knowledge of what has gone on lands with the president-elect. So it's very much a learning role. Also responsible for writing and looking after some of the policies and procedures, and at any point, if President is not available to go to one of those other meetings, then I become a natural stand-in. Very often we want a P of the three Ps at something, and ideally we'd send the President, but if not, then we can send President-elect or immediate past President to stand in and speak for the three Ps.
And effectively speak for the organisation.
Yes.
And I probably should have added that the other significant interface we have is between IfSE as the UK chapter of entails and other entails chapters and the central entails team, and that again falls to myself and sometimes Hazel, where I can't be there, with regular meetings between the Europe, Middle East and Africa sector and regular meetings with the CEO, Steve Records. We were having this conversation recently at a council meeting, and one of the professional development directors proffered how much time they commit, and it got me to thinking, and I will put it this way, that my company, Thales, supports me by giving me 20% of my time to do this role, and I would suggest it is not enough. There is still elements that I have to do out with that 20%. I think that's fair to say. And I've certainly found the president role busier than the president-elect role in some ways.
Yeah, I'd agree with Andrew. It ramps up from president-elect, which is a decent commitment of time, and you need your company to give you the full backing to be able to do this role. But the additional external sort of commitments you have as president mean you are going to a lot more meetings, whether virtually or in person, as well as the internal IfSE and InCozy liaison type meetings. Once you hit immediate past president, then it does drop away a bit, but you pick up other stuff. You might get more accountability for making sure that the governance documents, our policies, etc., are in good shape, and making sure that the owners are looking after them. We each are owners of various governance documents. You get quizzed upon for things from both internally within the council and through the secretariat, because you've got the experience. You've got 4+ years behind you of running or helping to run this organisation. And yes, you are the figurehead when you're president, but you've got a big team behind you, not just the council, but the secretariat as well. So it's not too daunting. The time is something you have to manage. I was, lucky my company give me the time. I have booking numbers to book to do it, to cover travel expenses and my time when I'm not working on fee-paying work. But I've also, since I've been doing the role, I've been working 4 days a week and now 3 days a week as I ramp down to retirement. So a lot of it has been in my own time. And as Andrew says, even with the time that you get to book at work, you will find yourself working, of an evening or something like that, just to catch up with emails and other preparation for what's coming up.
Yes, so President-elect is it's a learning role to some extent. It's a certainly the first 6 months is very much getting you into the organisation and learning a huge amount about what goes on and what's expected. Then you've got the sort of 18 months of properly being part of that team and being useful. My company, SEMP, has also given me 20% of my time, which is funded for this. Last year, I booked my IfSE time very carefully on my timesheets, and it came to 19% of my time. I think if you wanted to, you could spend a huge amount more, because it's a never-ending pool of possibility of what you could spend time on. But what the role requires, I'd say that first year 19%, and this year is looking like it's tracking similarly. So yes, you do need to have that corporate backing of a good day a week as a starting point. I wait to see what it's going to mean for me for the other two roles.
I think the time commitment personally does has put some strain on home life to get that balance right. On the flip side, because we're all volunteers, we organise around ourselves. There's no fixed schedule in terms of when those commitments come up. Some of them we can't control, obviously, but some of them we do. The council meetings, we make sure everybody is available and we can move them around and make sure that they fit with our work-life balance. I think professionally, things changed for me the day that I was asked to nominate. So I was asked by a number of the council to put my name forward because they had not received any nominations to that point, and I was on the edge of doing it and had missed the deadline. And the moment I went back to my boss and said, they've asked me to put my name forward, the way I was started to be treated at work has changed drastically. I think the people have really started looking up to me, started taking me seriously as a leader, and the network that I've grown, and I think, Hazel, you'll experience this in the next year, when you step from the president-elect, which is quite a interior role in some ways. There's quite a lot of interaction internally, getting to know how the organisation works. When you step into the president role and start working with the Professional Engineering Committee, where you're dealing with the CEOs and leadership of other professional engineering institutions, and you're dealing with the Royal Academy, the network that you form and grow has helped me massively to look for skills that I want to develop, to help grow that network of people I can call on for if we're looking for someone to come to an event or be a keynote speaker. And at work, again, being able to introduce yourself as the president of the Institute for Systems Engineering holds a significant amount of weight. I've had people say to me, so you're here to assess this training course. What gives you the right to be doing that? And I said, well, it's part of the job that I'm in, but also I'm this role as president, and they kind of go, oh, right, yeah, okay, I understand why that makes sense. So I think personally, it's also opened up a lot of opportunities for me. It's given me a wide range of things that I am looking at for my career going forward. So I think whilst it has been whilst there is definitely a challenge, there's some late nights. There's definitely fitting in time with the family and the wife in amongst a busy day, and then starting some work afterwards again. It's been worth it.
I guess the primary benefit I've had is more personal than professional, although it has benefited both myself and my organisation, WSP, who I work for. I know they've used the fact that I have been in the presidential roles, you know, in bids and on CVs and things like that, to sort of emphasise the type of people that they have working for them. And it gives me a bit of kudos as well at work. But I didn't do it to sort of for professional development as such and get myself further up the tree at work. I was looking for a way out to retire. So it was, as I said earlier, it's more about a personal ambition, if you like, and personal development in doing something that perhaps pushed me outside my comfort zone a little bit from time to time, but also allowed me to sort of give some of the professional experience that I had back into the institute that I'd got an awful lot of benefit out of in the many years I've been a member of InCosi UK and now IfSE. So that was the prime thing. And it is I found a very rewarding thing to do. It's difficult to take that plunge and say, yes, I will do it. But if you do, I think you'll get an awful lot out of it, irrespective of where you are in your career development cycle.
A very similar story. So personally, professionally, and my employer, I think there's benefits all round. From a personal point of view, it is interesting. There's personal growth, taking a huge amount of responsibility for some things in a way that you wouldn't in other roles. There's a huge difference between running a large team in a large organisation and being responsible for the continued good running of a relatively small company, which is the Institute. So you learn so much about what needs to happen within an organisation at a legal level of what policies we need in place and what things need to be done on a annual or quarterly basis. So there's a huge amount of learning there that you wouldn't necessarily get, particularly working for a large organisation. You just wouldn't see those things. And so running a team within a large organisation is quite a different thing, which I've done before. Professionally, it does open doors. It gives you access to conversations that you wouldn't otherwise have. It's helpful for extending networking, and as you say, Andrew, next year is going to be more of that. But even this year, it does grow your network, which is there then to be used from a professional point of view. And my employer, SEMP, we're a very small organisation, and as a small organisation, they've committed to giving me 20% of my time. They see the value in saying we are committed to systems engineering. So if nothing else, as a almost as a marketing expense, to pay for 20% of somebody is a big investment. So they evidently see the value in that. And then finally, as back to the sort of personal thing, you're working very much as a team, and it's the level of support that I've received to get into the role, to get started in the role, and the continuing support is huge. And I've also had offers of support if you want to talk, if there's anything you want to discuss, pick up the phone, from multiple previous presidents. So it's not just the people that you see in the council today, it's the people who've been through these roles in the past who are also willing to support and continue that support through.
Well, the obviously big highlight was actually transitioning to become the Institute for Systems Engineering in, when was it, July last year. It was a long and tricky road to navigate. And I think both my predecessor, Ian Gibson, myself, and it eventually fell to Andrew for it to actually come to fruition. I think we all thought it would happen on our watch. But it did take quite a while. But there were little wins along the way. And I think the things that I got done was we got ourselves registered with Companies House. That happened on my watch. We finally made that transition. But after that point, it was all internal. We'd sort of broken the back of the external support that we needed through the Engineering Council and the Royal Academy. But then it was getting the membership system right. And there was an awful lot of work went into that. A lot of people got involved. But it meant that when we did go live, so to speak, it was a success. And I think that's probably the highlight that I'll see through. We're now doing things that have only been enabled because we're now IfSE, like the fellowship scheme. And that'll hopefully boost our membership. I think that's something to be able to offer fellowship like the other PEIs is good. So there have been quite a few highlights, but I think that's the big one for me.
I will echo Malcolm's sentiments. I did expect to take over once it was already IfSE, but getting to stand there in front of 250 people at ASEC last November and say to our membership, welcome to IfSE, and being able to do a formal launch event with our strategic partners this February, and again stand there and introduce what IfSE is, what we stand for, and to award the first set of fellows, our first tranche coming through the pilot. And I'd like to see that the fellowship scheme up and running before the end of the year, but we will. Hopefully, there's not as many obstacles as getting IfSE in place, and certainly I'd echo to some extent Malcolm's sentiment of I know more now about corporate law than probably I ever wished to, and getting all of those documents in place, whilst it's a lot of hard work, getting the governance right, getting all the governance we need, and especially knowing the difference between getting that governance that we have to have in place versus the bits now where we are looking at what do we want to have in place to cover ourselves from other aspects. I think the highlight for me is working with the team, working with a council which has almost completely changed from, and certainly by the end of this year will have almost completely changed from when I took over. The council changes annually, but the sentiment and the drive to do something good for systems engineering in the UK and globally, it's a really supportive, encouraging environment, and it really helps get things done. I do, however, to some extent, miss the bit that the president-elect gets to do, where you get to go and do site visits for the conference events. I quite enjoyed going to various parts of the country and looking at venues. That was a lot of fun. But yes, thank you.
So I've only been in post for 18 months, but there have been quite a lot of things that count as highlights in that time. So yes, the trip to find the venue for this year's event was quite a highlight, even though we genuinely must have walked about 6 miles. It felt like 100. And in a day, and saw so many venues, but actually the one that we've selected at Telford absolutely stood out as a wonderful space, and looking at that and trying to see how that fits with the shape of the event, the event that we want, and we're looking not at the one that's coming up, but the one after that. So there's you're kind of missing a lot of the information that you'd like to have about what the event's going to look like, because you don't know how this year's is going to go, and you're trying to plan the one after that. So that's a highlight, and certainly, you know, planning the event, being involved in that is a huge highlight. ASEC last year was a highlight, insanely busy. I've always found the ASEC events in the past to be very tiring because they're full on. There's always something there and always something happening just as an attendee. But when you are in some way responsible for things, there is so much more going on. So I got to the end of that completely exhausted, but in a good way, because it is so rewarding. And to say one of the other highlights was standing in because Andrew couldn't make it, to have breakfast at the Houses of Parliament, for for a Royal Academy launch event. So there's all sorts of things going on, and it's just full of little highlights. There's obviously a lot of hard work and a lot of pressure. The launch event was another huge highlight. We all put a lot of work, not just the three of us, but we all put a lot of work into getting that event planned, and the two publications there in good shape for it, and seeing that come together as a launch event was again a really good feedback that we had from the UCAB companies, from various other people, that it was a good event and a good thing. So yes, lots of highlights. I'd like to say don't be too intimidated by it, because it's a big role, particularly the president role, which I'm seeing more and more of as quite a big role, and I don't quite know what I'm stepping into. But there is so much support and there's momentum. So IfSE has momentum and direction, and as 3Ps, we work as a team. So you're not left on your own to do things, and the stability that is generated by having the succession roles is really nice. And it means that as president, you can pick where you want to focus your energy, but you're not going to be able to completely derail the institute, and you're not going to have everything thrust upon you all at once. So that stability, I think, is really important, and the level of support around. So I'd say don't be intimidated by it.
Yeah, and I'd add to that as I think all of us have said, there are so many doors it opens, so many opportunities. Be careful which ones you choose. There's only so much of you to actually go around. You've got your time, and there are so many opportunities that you can overcommit. And I think it's something we're looking at generally across council, is how do we give the council members, the directors, more of their own time back so they can do the direction rather than having to do the actual every single bit. And so there's work afoot looking at how we can better implement some committees or groups to support the roles. But as Hazel said, so many opportunities come up for conversations and invites to things. I don't think it's possible to do them all. And you have to remember there is the team behind you to go and stand in and if it's a technical conversation, then pass it on to the technical people. If it's a professional development conversation, then let the professional development team handle it. Especially coming out of the Professional Engineering Committee and the NEPC this year, they've stood up a number of committees and groups that effectively work across all of the PEIs. You can't possibly be at all of them. And so relying on the team behind the role, other Ps, other council members, some of them are Jane and the .I team, will help support that, and you can take advantage of the opportunities that you want to. So I've been able to take advantage of being invited to work with Engineers Without Borders last year and do a few days of volunteering with Engineers Without Borders, and being invited to various conferences to speak. You get a lot of opportunity to take advantage of that. Don't burn yourself out.
Yeah, I'd echo all of that. And I guess just reach out to us if you're considering it. Get in contact with us. Either any of us.
Yep.
I guess in my role as the chair of the NAC, I could be the first point of contact. In all these roles have been will be highlighted in the next e-preview. And you can look at the terms of reference. But just if you're thinking about it, just get in touch and you'll find that it's not as daunting as you thought it might be. And you'll have a fantastic time if you take up the opportunity and stand. We want people to stand. We want elections. We want it to be a little bit competitive, if you like, in that way. But it's there for you to go and grab and make the most of it.